let's call this meeting to order. Hold on one second. I'm starting to have technical difficulties. All right, February 16th, 2021 at 6:35. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's Mayor Pro Tem Ott.
Go ahead.
Present.
Trustee Antonopoulos. Trustee Antonopoulos. Trustee Kimberly.
Here. Oh,
Trustee Jeffrey.
all over the place.
Here.
Trustee Westcott.
Here.
Trustee White. Maybe we lost Antonopoulos. Oh no, she's at the bottom. Okay. Okay, I see her. So, Trustee Antonopoulos, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I froze up for a second.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, and we have a quorum. And we'll go back up to the top one, which I skipped over, which was Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the
United States of America
United States.
and to the republic
Republic
And to the
which
republic.
stands
Stands
one nation
one
under
nation,
God,
under
indivisible,
God, indivisible,
liberty and justice
for
for all. All right, and we're all here, so I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the agenda.
liberty and justice for all. I move to approve the agenda presented.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any audience business?
I did not get any emails or anything, and it doesn't look like there's anybody on as attendees, so.
Right. We'll move on to the consent agenda. The payment approval report, the consent agenda is for $126,080.26, as well as the February 2nd, 2021 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to
I'll
approve the
approve the
consent
consent
agenda as
agenda.
presented.
Take your choice, Linda.
Okay,
And do we have a
I'll do
second?
the second.
okay. Sounds good.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Mahoney.
Yes,
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Thank you.
and motion carries. All right, next item is the financial update. Ms. Rademacher.
I'm here. Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. Happy Mardi Gras to you all. Before you, you have my quite lengthy fourth quarter update, comparing year-end unaudited, of course, to the forecast. And you also have the December 31st, 2020 unaudited financial statements and the January financial statements, as well as a coronavirus relief fund expenditure report. So I guess I can just start with, does anybody have any questions about the fourth quarter update? A lot of information in there, but I do try to go into quite a bit of detail on a quarterly basis to keep you up to speed and let you know how we're doing. So are there any questions about the fourth quarter 2020 and how 2020 in general ended up?
I'm looking for some hands. And I'm not seeing any. And I have nothing, so by all means,
will
continue.
say, on that note, the audit is is started, pretty hot and heavy. I'm working on getting everything reconciled at this point, making sure everything is in its right bucket, doing all the journal entries and things that are required at the end of the year. So I'm working on that. The auditor is set to be in person in about a month. She'll be in the office there, March 11th through the 18th, I believe. And we will have all the field work wrapped up at that point. Audit should be prepared and done by April or May and presented to the board in June. So that's the big last push coming on for 2020. All of the year-end things were completed. The W-4s or the W-2s and the 1099s and things of that nature went out. The January financials are also in front of you. We're starting off pretty strong in January. Everything's trending pretty in line with what the budget had anticipated as far as wages and benefits and things of that nature. I will let you know that year to date today, actually, February 16th, we have collected 11 permits for the View Homes development, so that's a good sign. Those were the 11 that we had originally hoped to have happen in 2020, but you know, they're a month or two behind, but that's okay. Better late than never. So the permits are coming in, and that's a very good indicator. So other than that, if anybody has any other questions, I can answer them at this time.
Any questions, comments? And I'm not seeing any. So,
Mayor,
Trustee Westcott.
Thank you. Ms. Rademacher, I just had a question, and just some clarification. At the very end of the report on the general fund, you put this line in: caution needs to be taken to maintain future fund balances. And I wanted to just find out what exactly you meant by that.
Well, the fund balance in the general fund, as you know, general fund dollars are used for everything. You know, for the public safety and for running all this, basically the services of the town. It did take quite a large dip in 2020, but as I said, that was attributed to the large road projects that were done. So I don't anticipate dipping further into the reserve funds this year. And hopefully we'll have a few years where we can build that back up again. But I'm a true saver, and I do like to see some healthy reserve balances just in case, you know, there's an emergency or things happen. So I always want to caution to keep your eye on that bottom number and make sure that reserve balance doesn't dip below what you want. I don't think the town currently has any reserve policies, which there are several policies I'm going to be working on this year, and that will be one of them that I'll bring before the board so that we can establish some parameters on where we want to have our reserve balances and what a healthy reserve looks like.
Great, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay, all right, well, thank you, Ms. Rademacher.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report, and we will move on. Next item is the Ramey Environmental PSA.
Thank you, Mayor.
Amy?
So the town is contracted with Ramey Environmental, the operator in charge of our water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant. And since that time, we've had an annual renewal of that contract. The only difference in this PSA is that we're proposing an automatic renewal unless otherwise terminated by either party with a 30-day notice. And so the terms of that and their fees for 2021 are in Exhibit A, and then the annual renewal terms are shown in Exhibit B in that same report, and their compensation adjustments on an annual basis. And staff does recommend approval of this PSA with Ramey Environmental Compliance. And Mr. Ramey is here also to answer questions if you have questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Steve or Mr. Ramey? And I'm not seeing any. So with that, we'll move forward and I'll entertain a motion. Anyone?
I move
I
to
move
approve the
to-
contract between Ramey Environmental and the town of Loch Dewey.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos. Is that a yes, Trustee Antonopoulos? Sorry.
So,
Thank you. Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Thank you.
And unanimously, the motion carries. Welcome back, Mr. Ramey.
Thank you, Mayor and Board, for your continued trust.
Okay, the next item is the IGA with the City of Brighton regarding CR2. Mr. Johns and Mr. Stamey.
Good evening, Board. Yeah, what I have in front of you is what was presented for discussion at the previous board meeting. It's being presented for you this evening to make a motion to approve. We didn't have any questions at the previous meeting, but if you had any questions tonight, I'm here to answer them.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Mr. Stamey or Mr. Johns on this? And I'm not seeing anyone. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the IGA between the town of Lochbuie and the town of the city of Brighton concerning Weld County Road 2.
All right.
Second.
Motion. There we go. Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos. Okay.
yeah.
Trustee, okay, thank you. Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. And motion carries. Thank you for all the work you guys have done on this. And well, let's just hope we can get this thing going here at the end of the year. Now the IGA for fleet maintenance with Brighton. I'm assuming that's Chief or
I think
Steve.
Mr. John could present the summary of that real quick.
okay.
Yeah, this, the IGA is obviously with the city of Brighton to do all of our fleet maintenance on, they maintenance basically all of the public works as well as the PD fleet services for us. We've used them for quite a period of time. They do a great job. They're close. And I am asking the board to approve this IGA with the city of Brighton.
Yep, I remember when we did this. I'm glad they're doing this. But anyway, any questions or comments? Board, and not seeing any. So with that, once again, we'll entertain a motion.
I move
to
Go ahead.
approve the intergovernmental agreement for fleet maintenance with the town of Brighton.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Thank you.
And motion carries. All right. The next one is the approval of the release of the retainage and final payment to Asphalt Specialty. Mr. Johns.
Yes, so what I have before you is, it's similar to the agreement that was in front of you about the roundabout. This one's a little bit, we tried to clean this up and make it a little bit easier to understand. This is the remaining retainage project for County Road 2. If you look down, I'm on page 140. If you look on page 140 where they have the breakdown as far as the items, it gives you the current balance and the balance to finish. The balance to finish is what is remaining to be owed at $134,801.25. That's the 5% retainage. It has been approved and signed off by the engineer who was overseeing the project. He is over on the right side of it. Sean O'Hearn approved and signed off on this. I'm asking for the board's approval to go ahead and accept this. We've already posted legal notice to make this payment for them.
Okay. Questions or comments? And seeing none, roll call, or entertain a motion.
I move to approve the application for payment to Asphalt Specialties.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mahoney. Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Ott. Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee White. Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Thank you.
And motion carries. All right. Next item is a discussion item. The 410 scheduled discussion. I had this brought up because, most of us weren't on the board when this was put into place, and I've actually had individuals from the town contact me about this, and one was kind of not so nice about it, but honestly, I don't think we're doing a service to our town by having the 4-day work week. We do a disservice to our taxpayers. I understand, I read through the whole thing that was brought to us, but I'm gonna kind of line out where I'm at on this, and then I'll open it up. Right now, I believe we have about 27 employees, somewhere in that neighborhood. And honestly, this 4-day work week, only 7 employees can actually use this, or actually actively using this. And those are all in the admin side. And 2 of those are our city manager and our clerk. And the issue I have is we're still doing this 4-day work week, plus we're having the ability to work from home. So we're having staff in there, and especially senior staff in there, way less. Upwards of cutting it down to senior staff being in town hall. While they may be available, they're in town hall or actually around their or the other employees 2 days a week. And I take umbrage with that. I have some issues with that. I know we have one other staff member, Ms. Rademacher, I believe before I came on, she had it set up so that she has a work from home for a couple days a week. So that's another one that really, for the most part, isn't taking advantage of that. So we actually have 6 employees that are taking advantage of that. And one of my issues is, or many of them, I read through what was, put out as reasons that are good for this to happen. And there were several that I just went, well, these are really fallacies. One of them was reduced electrical usage and things of that nature for the town. The town will see a reduction in power consumption. That's a fallacy, because you're taking 8 hours away from on a Friday, and you're adding those 8 hours back to the 4 days. So you still have 2 days a week where you're still doing the same thing that you would have been doing on Friday. So there's a fallacy there. Also, reduction. I understand the reduction of exposure to the outside with people coming in. But again, if you're there now 10 hours versus being there 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, if 100 people come in during the week, during a 5-day week, there's still 100 people going to come in during that 4-day work week. Now you've bottlenecked and you still have the same amount. So I still take umbrage with that and see that as a fallacy. The other thing that I see as a problem is we've now taken away a whole Friday when work can be done and things can be done for customers, clients, and those customers are not just the citizens. Those customers are also developers, contractors, public works, sewer and water, the police department. They still need that access to staff in there as well. They're there 7 days a week for the most part. The police department is, public works is there 5 days a week with on call. There's just so many different things that I don't much care for the shutdown of the Friday. And I'll go back to Ms. Blackston actually put out an email today about the newsletter issues. My issue with that is I knew about this a month ago, back on the 15th of last month, when water bills were not getting to people in a timely manner. I had no knowledge of it. I actually heard about it from citizens contacting me because they were angry because they wanted to pay their bill, but they go in to pay, and guess what? It's Friday the 15th. No one's in the office. They don't know what's going on. They don't have their water bill yet, and they can't go in and find out what it is to pay it. So I go in there, and there were people there trying to talk to the police department, and they can't help them. So while that was the perfect storm, that's still an issue. I really don't much care for not having that extra day, having that ability for people to go in there. We have, I've read studies and I understand some of the reasons for it, but I also understand that a lot of studies have been done on work hours. And when you run an 8-hour day, your max peak efficiency is 2 hours and 53 minutes. Well, now we've taken away Friday and we've taken away that peak efficiency of 2 hours and 53 minutes. And then when you have employees working over 8 hours, production and efficiency reduce. And these are studies I can give everybody the information I have on that, but I just don't think we're doing the public a disservice by being closed up on Friday. So I'm going to open this up to board members, and we'll have a discussion. Go ahead, Trustee Westcott.
So I voted in favor of this when it came before the board over the summer. One of the things I think I'd clarify is that part of the move to do this was because of COVID, and my understanding is that the gap of time, that 3 days, helps to minimize exposure and transmission, and it's not just about the total number of people, as you mentioned, that are going to now funnel down to 4 days instead of 5, but it's about the fact that if we give them a 3-day break between being at work, then we just have a better opportunity to catch symptoms, so that people aren't coming to work when they're actually contagious if they have caught COVID, because they just have that one extra day to develop symptoms. And it's not a huge difference, but I do think from a public health standpoint that's a valid approach to take. I know that was one of the reasons that the school district went to the 4-day week for COVID for the school year. I would also say that as a citizen, I have actually really benefited from the fact that they're open earlier and later. I love the fact that if I'm on my way to work, it used to be that if I had to do something at town hall, I almost had to take the day off or take time off in order to get over there, because they were open during the times I had to be at work, and I just didn't have a way to get into town hall during the hours that they were open. And so that extra hour or two in the morning and then the extra time in the afternoon just gives me as a citizen more opportunities to get in and get business done. And I think it's really important that we also consider just the work-life balance for our staff. And and I'm not saying that needs to be necessarily the primary consideration, but if this is something that a lot of other municipalities or even some other municipalities have adopted and it's working, and it provides an incentive to our employees to stay with us, then I think we should definitely seriously consider it. And again, so I voted for this over the summer. If we really feel like the town is not in favor of this, I'd like to see some data on that. I think getting survey information from citizens would be a great step to really see how people are feeling about it. Because the reality is if nobody cares, or if it's benefiting people, then I'd like to know that.
Agreed. Go ahead, Mr. Ott. Trustee Ott.
I also voted for it, but listening to some thoughts and the lost day, my question is, can we still keep the 4/10s, but stagger people so we have a kind of a smaller staff on Monday and maybe a smaller staff on Monday, on Friday, but get them cross-trained? So we are open the 5 days a week with the extended hours. Nobody's doing any more than 4/10s, but it still gives us full coverage. I don't know whether it's possible in there or not to get them cross-trained so they can handle everything. But, you could keep it up and open 5 days a week that way and still do the 4/10s, just stagger the shifts.
Trustee Kimberly.
I'm going to echo a little bit of both the last two comments from Trustee Westcott and Trustee Ott, that if I remember correctly, over the summer, we were one of the last towns to modify our schedule, because when we considered it, we had the list of what other communities were doing, and not to say that we had to do it because everybody else was doing it, but I do think that we eventually came around to having the conversation that everybody else was having, and we came to it. It appeared to be a bit later than everybody else. I know we've had the conversation, as well as the difficulties at times of recruiting and retaining staff, and I think this helps a little bit in that process of doing that. And I totally agree with Trustee Westcott about being able to come in early to handle the business. That is particularly helpful, knowing that I can swing by before the start of the day. And I had the exact same question that Trustee Ott had about, can we come up with a modified hybrid type of schedule where we do have that coverage 5 days a week, but in essence, it's still 4/10s for the employees. That way we're open Monday through Friday.
No, that is definitely one of the things I was thinking about. It's no different than the police department, who does A/B shift kind of thing. Trustee White.
Hi, I also agree. I think the 5 days, is a must. For me personally, I am a stay-at-home mom, but my husband, speaking from the citizen side, Fridays are really my only day to go. My husband works, various hours depending on the day, depending on the job, depending on the time of year. And being open in the morning is good for some people, but for someone like me, it's not. Like, I'm not going to pack 4 of my kids in the car and stop by and come inside the building and run some errands and leave my kids outside. It wouldn't be worth my time to drag them out of bed early to do that. And in the evenings, it's just kind of a thing for our family. When my husband's home, we're done for the day. So for me, Friday is really a good day. I was really surprised to see that you guys did close on Fridays. I know a lot of people who, Friday, that's usually most people can get off of work a little bit early or something like that. So I was surprised with that. But I think a good compromise might be, like everyone has said, the 4/10s rotating schedules. So it is 5 days a week, just would vary who's off on what day. And as far as kind of retaining employees, I don't really feel that way. I kind of think, being a city job is kind of like a banker's job. A lot of people have a standard work week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and that's kind of what you expect. That's kind of what you're getting into. You said we had 7 people, 2 of them are senior staff members. 1 person was already on an adjusted schedule, so we made this adjustment. It's really benefiting 4 people. I don't think that's enough reason to try to retain staff for 4 staff members.
Thank you. Trustee Antonopoulos.
I agree with most of what everyone has said. I personally do benefit from early mornings or later evenings, like most other people. And I think a lot of citizens probably care more about the morning late necessarily than Friday on or Friday off. But at the same time, it seems like there should be some sort of compromise on the matter where maybe it's 4/10s, but one person works a half day on Friday and only works a shorter day the rest of the week or something like that, where maybe the town hall's open from 7 to noon on Fridays. So it's not totally closed, but it's a half day or a slow day.
Okay. Now, I brought this up just because I have had a number of people. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Jeffrey. Your hand in the corner is blending in with your background for me.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was on the board and also approved this move, and I want to make sure that credit is given where due, because the town employees did a really good job of gathering data and information and sharing it with us at that point in time. And I myself asked about the potential of a sort of rolling schedule. And if I recall correctly, it had something to do with people having specific jobs and not necessarily knowing everything that everybody else did. But I think this board would be very remiss if they did not give our town employees an opportunity to share their perspective on why they made this request to us and how we came about approving it, which I believe was a unanimous decision. And in agreement with a lot of the things that have already been said, particularly Trustee Westcott, I think that we show our appreciation for the hard work that our employees do by trying to make accommodations that they feel will help them be more productive in their workplace. But I do think it's important to hear their perspective if we're having an open discussion.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything else? Okay. Well, like I said, I was bringing this up because I've had a couple, well, as I said, one individual who was not real happy, and I've actually had developers, several developers who have made comments about things that were, they couldn't get done on Friday because no one's here. So I am all about taking care of the employees and making sure the employees are happy. I want retention. I want to keep the employees. Yeah, we have good employees. That's all there is to it. But also, we are here at the behest of citizens, and we're here to take care of the citizens. And to think otherwise, that we put everyone else's needs over, or employees' needs or wants over the citizens, that becomes an issue. But anyway, Mr. Sammy?
Just to clarify, Public Works also does the 410 schedule.
Okay, but they also have someone on
There's someone on call.
On call for all 3 days. Yeah, that they're not there. Okay, but I wanted to bring this up, and I wanted to have the board come back in or come on this because we're a new board, and I wanted to get everyone's opinion because I've had, as I said, I haven't had any good, which we rarely do, get people saying, hey, this is a great thing. When they're happy, they don't say anything. When they're not happy, they say a lot. So I just wanted to bring this up. And I'm hearing overwhelmingly, Trustee White.
I'm just curious. Obviously, there's many people, and mornings are great, nights are great, Fridays are great. I mean, would it be even feasible to try to make all those accommodations? Like perhaps have one day a week that we open extra early, one day that we're open late, and have a normal day the other 3 days out of the week? And I know when I've been in the office quite a bit, and Linda's introduced me to a lot of the staff, and I've heard every time I've been in there at how well everyone has cross-trained. So maybe Linda could speak to how much, cross-training there has been, and if Do you think it's feasible for people to cover these other positions to get through a whole day? How many staff members do you think bare minimum would be needed?
To do like an A, B.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something, I mean, that's something I think I've seen a lot of board members shaking their head yes. When we've spoken about that, I really would like to see what the feasibility of it is. And, but Linda can speak to, the training and cross-training and everything, if you would, Ms. Blackstone.
Sure. We do have a lot of cross-training. As you know, currently we have 2 fairly new employees, our building permit tech and the utility billing, although they are doing very well. The building permits are the only ones that could be a little tricky for there's lots of cross-training. Like we can do the fencing and the roofs and those kind of things, but like the new builds are a little complicated. And I've seen where other jurisdictions have where they make by appointment for those building permits so that person's always here and then they know when they're here, which would be similar to them, like however we do this, longer hours, all day, rotated out. And if we're gonna rotate out staff or stagger, that may be one of the ways, just so that everybody knows when the building permit person is here, especially for brand new builds, because we have a lot of those coming up with, Lochbuie Station happening and Silver Peaks East. We are currently looking for a lot of research, and we did put out a survey. We sent out 400. We just picked emails out of our software, randomly sent emails out, getting feedback. We've gotten quite a bit back. We've sent out to a couple of vendors, a couple of title companies to get their feedback. So, I need to think this, because we thought about it a lot before, how it would make it work. And because it is true, we do a lot of cross-training, which I really appreciate. My staff is all willing to take on all the basics of everybody's job. So if someone's out and sick and on vacation, that's a little tricky when the staggering, if we have people on vacations and are out sick, it makes it a little tricky to manage, but it could happen. That's why when we're sort of had geared more towards the Friday off, because of that reason to some degree, and with the extended hours, and we have seen a substantial use of the 7 to 8 time period, a little bit of the 5 to 6. Granted, as you all are aware, our town is, we use Facebook and the website and the newsletter to get that any kind of information out of any changes we make. And unfortunately, we struggle a little bit with people going to those resources where we push that information out. So and I know that is part of our issue with the Fridays and people not learning, but I can share with you that the amount of, like the shutoffs and those kind of things, they're getting an extra day. I could go, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of how to share all this with you, but.
Oh, that's fine. I just wanted you to kind of talk about the cross-training, and that's good. We obviously, especially when it comes to the permits, that's a huge endeavor, and really difficult to cross-train in depth on that, and that's understandable. But we do have a general knowledge. Most have a general knowledge of water bills and things of that nature, I'm assuming. So. Right.
I appreciate that, you letting me speak. If I could say one more thing, I would just ask that since we are doing trying to get feedback and have that, we would really like to be able to present you with more information and more data at the March 16th meeting, which would be towards the end of the 6-month trial period. If that is feasible for you all, we could put more together for you, and then having you guys have this conversation, and then also sending us additional questions that we might be able to assist with to just so we all get the bigger picture and see what everybody needs and wants, and what information will help us all decide what's the best outcome from this. We would really appreciate that as staff.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have anything else? Trustee White?
I just wanted to mention for the Fridays and the you're talking about, cross training for permits. And I just feel like from a developer standpoint, even like construction type work, I feel like a lot of those calls, at least from my experience, I did utility locating. My husband's been in that for probably some 25 years. We owned our own company for about 10. And I mean, I think the volume from developers and stuff is going to be Friday or Monday. So that is a concern. And then also when we were talking about like food trucks, which is a discussion and something on everyone's mind, let's keep that in mind. If that's something we're really pushing for the town, even for commercial properties. I did talk to Daphne, which I'll share that later, but just a little bird in your ear. She's the Family Dollar lady. She's open to the idea, but that's going to be something where people are going to need better access to come in and get that permit to be able to have a food truck in town over the weekend. So I really think Friday is a pretty important day to have somebody available. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. And so we'll, this will be, tabled. As Linda said, they're going to bring back more information and gather all of that. So yeah, for the meeting in March. So with that, we'll move on to the next item. Cleanup discussion. Item B. Who's got the lead on that?
That would be me as well. So what I kind of prepared for the board, and I also included what was presented to the board at the meeting after cleanup days. But what I presented is basically kind of what happened with cleanup days and different options, just kind of throwing all the information out to the board to figure out what would be the best option to move forward for this year for cleanup days. Normally cleanup days are done in April, May. So if we want to continue with the current process, we need to get that going right away. There are a few issues. The biggest issue that we had with cleanup days last year was the lack of staff from Waste Management. They've already mentioned to me this year that the amount of staff that we would need, they might not be able to fulfill that based on their staffing level and potentially the COVID situation. So we potentially could get ourselves in the exact same situation we were in last year. And I would highly recommend not going down that road again. It was a disastrous day, for lack of better terms. The staff was completely beaten up. Residents were extremely upset with us. And it just is a really bad experience just overall for everyone. And so I've tried to throw out some options as far as other places and what they've done, and just give you kind of all the information. And potentially, I think if we do have cleanup days, I do expect a significant turnout. I think last year's we could have done quite a bit more, and we just didn't have the staff to accommodate. If everyone's aware, we started turning people away on Saturday by 10 o'clock in the morning. It just was a bad day. So, I tried to project kind of what maybe potential numbers would be if we had it again. Again, that's just a projection, but I kind of just want to throw this information out to the board and have a discussion on other ideas, or if there's particular idea that I have that we want to go with. So I'm kind of just opening up to the board and can answer any questions as far as, kind of the experience from last year. I know Trustee Ott was around and received several complaints, so he might be able to speak to it a little bit as well. So I'm here for any questions.
All right, Trustee Ott?
Yes, I did show up over there, and it was a cluster, but it's Waste Management's fault. Everybody knows, since when you were on the board before, Mike, my opinion of Waste Management on a scale of 1 to 10 is about a 1, if it's that much. Okay, so we
tell us how you really feel, Dave.
Yeah, so we either need to get them off their butts and do the job that we're paying them for, or find somebody else to do this. Because I'm done dealing with these idiots. This is for more your information, Mark, this is the second year they screwed it up, not the first year. Last year was screwed up too. So I have no sympathy for Waste Management. They either come up with the people or they bring extra work in, extra help in to fulfill their contractual obligations.
Okay. Trustee Antonopoulos?
I'm sure my Silver Peaks friends here can agree that dump day always is terrible. But I did read through your memo and some of your suggestions, and I think that the voucher system is an excellent idea.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, Trustee White?
Yes, 100% with Solera on that, and I loved that idea as well. I loved the idea of 2 vouchers. I was thinking, and for Silver Peaks, we've done it where it's 1 truckload. I think allowing people to bring whatever vehicle or whatever they want. You're going to get some people who come with their little Geo and empty out just their trunk, and then you're going to get the people with the 25-foot trailer. There has to be a limit. I would say like 1 pickup truck load, you know, an average size pickup truck. And then I think a second voucher would be useful for like a large item if somebody did have a mattress, you know, or something that wouldn't fit. And I definitely think like designating days where you have, or maybe every day you have the regular household items and then the large items, but separating them somehow, because the, you know, smaller loads or just the truckloads are going to move much quicker than people who have the larger items. You know, they're going to have to park and move and dump. And just from our experience here in Silver Peaks, I definitely think like dividing the big and the small items would be great. And then I also have a really good friend of mine who works at Republic over in Commerce City. So if anybody can give me quotes on what we need, I'd be happy to reach out to her. She actually does the dumpsters there. She does commercial contracts. I could shoot her an email with that and see if we could get a quote. Maybe looking at another company wouldn't be a bad idea.
All right. All right, Trustee Westcott.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Johns, for this information. And I will agree with Trustee Antonopoulos. We've done 3 dump days at Silver Peaks that I've helped to plan, and they're always a nightmare. And you're right, it's awful and people are mean. I would also just completely second what Trustee Ott said about we used waste management one of those years, and it was a nightmare. We wound up having to pay a huge amount of money in overages because they left a dumpster overnight because they didn't have a driver who could come pick it up. And anyway, it's just a big mess. So I would really encourage looking to see if there's another vendor out there that could provide the service that we need. My experience was that, you know, the next 2 years that we found people, they were much more responsive, much more able to get drivers out there and get dumpsters removed and replaced more quickly. But again, it wasn't the whole town. So you're going to be the expert on that. I love the idea of a voucher system. I think that is so smart. And so that has both my thumbs up. Your curbside pickup idea intrigued me because, you know, the whole point of this service to our community is really self-interest, right? Which is that it helps our community members to get rid of large items of trash that otherwise would be in their yards or in their garages, or basically creating a mess in our community. And I started wondering about families, particularly the elderly perhaps, who don't have access to a pickup truck or a large vehicle, or access to just the elbow grease that it takes to get stuff out to the dump. So I don't know that I'm going to totally support this idea of curbside pickup. I think it's a kind of a nightmare for most people. It would be just in terms of cost, but I do think it's worth considering maybe on a special case by case basis for, like I said, the elderly or the disabled. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We actually did the curbside at one point, and when we first started this, we did curbside pickup, and unfortunately it did get extremely costly to do it. Trustee Kummerly.
I have not had the fortune or pleasure to participate, but I've certainly heard how it has gone. Like other comments, I'm intrigued about how we could potentially do implement a voucher program. Just really appreciate the suggestions and trying to think ahead, because you know it's already mid-February. It's going to be April or May before we know it. So it's kind of hard to imagine one extent of being below zero yesterday and we're planning for our spring cleanup. But no, thank you. I wanted to express my appreciation for the suggestions and how we can make it much, much better this year.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in agreement with everyone on the voucher thing. I think that'd be that's a phenomenal idea. I think it would work really well. And I know, well, Steve or Mr. Johns, how much longer do we have? Two things. The spring cleanup, is that worked into our contract? And how much longer do we have on our current contract with Waste Management?
So the spring cleanup is a part of their services in their agreement. And I think their contract was renewed last year, so it's probably another 3 or 4 years out.
Okay. So, but within the contract, what we're paying, is that part of the spring cleanup, or we end up paying on top of that?
They give us so many dumpster hauls that are
Okay.
part of their agreement, and then we pay for beyond that.
Gotcha. And I knew we had something like that. All right. Yeah, because I know, and that's the thing, and that's where we run into the problems is, I know I've actually witnessed it where people have come from the outside, somebody's buddy followed them over and they brought trash over into Lock Buoy's trash. And that's why I think that voucher thing would be a great thing to limit, or at least somewhat alleviate outside people from coming in.
Yeah, and then when you had loads that were so large that they were filling up
Oh,
the
yeah.
dumpster themselves, and
Yeah.
then people have to wait till another dumpster shows up.
Yeah. No, I agree. Trustee Westcott.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't see on here, and I was reminded of it by your comment, is I wonder if we can do some kind of an residency verification, like just having people bring in a piece of mail that has their address on it as a Lock Buoy address, so that we can verify, in addition to their voucher, that they actually live in the town limits. I think isn't necessarily a big hardship. It doesn't require anybody to look anything up, but just proof of residency.
Or at least the voucher with their driver's license and the names match. Go ahead, Mr. Johns.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. So as far as with the voucher, the thought is to eliminate the time spent out in the field on a Saturday with our public works crew, to have people come in and show proof of residency at town hall, get their vouchers. That way we could speed up the process out actually on the field, on that Saturday, that Friday, so that my staff, when they're out there, they're not having to check and verify all the IDs. We can get people in and get them out. That's one way we can do it. We can definitely check the IDs there, but I was just trying to think of a way to speed that process up. Just seeing the large number that we had last year, the sooner we can get them in and the sooner we can get them out, the happier everyone is. And the other thing I would mention to the board, based on just kind of the timing of things, if this is something we want to kind of continue to discuss, I would ask that maybe we look at having the cleanups later in the year, like a September, maybe, and continue this discussion and fine tune it. If we are all in agreement with that, maybe kind of make that decision. Because if we wanted to do it in that sense, then I would like to get something out to let our residents know that we're going to postpone it. So that's kind of the urgency with getting this in front of the board. If we choose to try to have this in April and May, we got to make that decision fairly quickly so I can get, staff and crew rounded up. If we want to postpone it a little bit, that gives us time to kind of tweak this, as well as then it would give me the ability to get that posted so our residents know what's going on, just to keep them informed.
Well, I mean, we could feasibly just move the spring cleanup to a little bit later in the spring or into the summer a little bit. I mean, if it gives you enough time. But I do like that idea of where people actually have to go into town hall and get their, as opposed to we just mail out a bunch of them. And I like that idea. I think that's a great way for them to go in, to be able to bring in their maybe water bill or something showing that they live there. So anyone else have any comments, questions? Mr. Trustee Ott?
I think the vouchers are a good idea, and I have no problem with postponing it to later on in the year. but let's hold Waste Management accountable. They say they're going to do something. If they don't do it, there's a non-contractual clause that they have to pay some kind of penalty because they have screwed us up continually on this
non-performance
town cleanup, and I'm done listening to their excuses.
No, I agree with you. Go ahead, Mr. Rand.
Well, I pulled up the waste management contract. We actually entered into it in 2018, so it goes through 2023. But what they have an obligation to do is one of two options. It outlines an option one, which is a designated drop-off location. And what it says is that Waste Management will support the town's cleanup program and provide 4 free roll-offs annually. And additional roll-offs would be charged at a rate, and it talks about the rate, and I think that might have been tweaked since the original contract was entered into. But the option 2 is a curbside collection event, and then they have a per haul plus disposal fee per ton rate in there. So I'm just letting you know that that's the only language in this contract that talks about what are Waste Management's obligations related to cleanup day.
Okay, and you're saying that's 4 roll-offs, and what did we do last year, Mr. Johns? 20 or the year before? I know before we've hit a large number in roll-offs.
Well, it says they'll give us 4 free roll-offs, and then they charge.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
We did
Go ahead,
32 last year, and I think if we had them, we could have done 50.
Oh yeah. See, that's kind of that was another thing that I think I can't remember who brought it up, but one of the trustees said something about limiting it to a pickup truck bed, and I think that's really a great idea. I mean, and then adding to it, if you have any large items like a mattress or something like that, I think that's something we could fine tune and hone. Makes my head hurt, but it is something that is good to have us doing because it's helping us get rid of that trash, because there are people who don't have the ability to. But go ahead, Trustee Antonopoulos.
I was just, because we keep talking about the vouchers and then also big items. What if the town, even when we announce the day, we could offer large item vouchers specifically, like a special red voucher for your mattress, but there's really only maybe a few, we can only give out X amount.
Yeah. No, I agree. Trustee White? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I wanted to just backtrack a little bit to Trustee Westcott. I really liked her idea of helping out the elderly. And I'm wondering if maybe if we do this voucher system, would there be a way that we could have someone from Public Works, like if they're registering, let's say we get 5 elderly and 2 disabled people register for Saturday. Is there a way to run a Public Works truck as a courtesy to load their stuff and take it to the dumpster? Would that be possible?
Mr. Johns? Mr. Stamey?
I think that would be possible. The only side catch that I could think of with it is we only have 1 dump truck. So the process of collecting could be a little bit timely. As well as if something, let's say an emergency were to happen where we needed the dump truck, we've now obligated that vehicle, our only vehicle for that specific event. That could put us in a little bit of a bind. I'm just thinking kind of emergency out of the box situations. The last thing I would want to do is commit and then have something come up and then, upsetting our residents.
Well, and the other side to that too is, I don't know what kind of, because if you have someone who's disabled or elderly, yes, I want to figure out a way to help them, but it becomes a question of liability. What if it's in their backyard or in their house and they want our staff to go in there and get them and get those things? I mean, I become concerned about that aspect.
Yeah, I would be concerned about our staff doing a job that's not in their normal purview and handling.
Getting hurt.
Yeah, exactly. So
I gotcha. I was thinking more like a curbside pickup as a courtesy with like just a pickup truck, but I understand.
And one thing that I could let you know as far as curbside pickup, because I called around and asked people that have done it. Just so you're aware of, it is a great service, but it is extremely costly.
Yes.
And it does come with a downside that if you mess that pickup kind of window, then the debris is left out on the road.
Yep.
And who deals with it? That's the biggest problem, is then what do we do with it? Because now then what we do is Public Work goes and they would be picking it up at basically, no cost. The town would have to eat that dump fee then. And so it's, I don't know if that would be a benefit or more of a hindrance. And then you talk the liability side as well.
Yeah. Okay, well, anyone have anything else? So, Mr. Johns, what is your recommendation as far as moving forward? I know you had talked about postponing. How much of a postponement would you need to work through all these?
Well, my thought is even when we did it, which was in early May, I'd like to postpone it. And if we were to postpone it a little bit, it would be recommended later on, maybe after August, just because of the heat of the day and being out there. We just kind of baked under the sun. You can't leave anywhere. We're basically just, kind of directing people through. So you just kind of sit out there and bake. It's pretty hard on people. My thought was more of when it cools down a little bit, before wintertime, if people are wanting to clean up their yards before the snow comes in kind of thing. That was kind of the thought. We could do it in the summertime. It's just the heat aspect of it. That's the other suggestion, was maybe because of Public Works being around, we're already there. If we extend it throughout the week, that way there's not that big push on the Saturday. And then the other thing I wanted the board to maybe just kind of consider is that about 25 to 30% was just tree branches and those types of things. And maybe we want to do two separate cleanups where one is just strictly tree branches and one is more of a debris that can be hauled off, something like that. So lots of different
landfill kind of stuff. Yeah, and when we're setting up the voucher date, I think that's a great idea, because when you're setting up the voucher, you can also put a specific date on those vouchers as to what's going in there or when they go, or so that you can regulate. But how is that affected, or what does that do for us with waste management? How will they charge us more to come out more than once? That's my question, I guess.
Yeah, it would be it'd still be the base. So if, let's say we had 50 total roll-offs over a 3-week period, because we stretched it out, it's still based off of the 50 roll-offs, because I talked to them about it.
Okay.
They actually recommended spreading it out, because then that allows them to spread their crew as well to accommodate the needs. So it's not on like a 2-day, because I was asking for 4 to 5 drivers on that Saturday. I just think that's what's needed, and they said they can't accommodate that.
Okay. And when you say 3 weeks, you mean 3 Saturdays?
Yeah, if you were to do, let's say, one weekend would be, let's say, branches, one weekend would be mattresses, or if we can break that up however we want, but the more we kind of spread that out, like I said, if let's say we do Monday through Saturday for 1 week and spread out the voucher system and what they can bring on certain days, it just makes it easier for all the parties involved to accommodate staff.
Okay. All right. Trustee Westcott?
Sorry, I was having technology issues, so I apologize if this was already brought up. I guess one of my questions would be, can we utilize the 4 free dumpsters, but then use another company to do the remainder of the cleanup event, just as a way of not having to deal with waste management for the cleanup event? I feel like they do a great job with our residential pickups. I just think that my experience has been that they don't handle those big events very well. And so that's the first thing. And then I think I just want to throw out there that I think no matter what we do, if we spread it out over 5 days, you're still going to wind up with the majority of people needing access on Saturday, just because it's really hard to go take time off from work or whatever to get out there and get things dumped during the week. People want to be able to dump on the weekend. And so I know that puts a hardship on Public Works, just throwing that out there.
No, I agree. I think the Saturdays are or more viable for people. They want to be able to take their stuff on a Saturday, not on a Monday or a Wednesday. But does anyone have anything else? Mr. Johns, any further on this?
Nothing further. I just would like to kind of maybe hear from the board do we want to kind of postpone this out a little bit? And if so, what kind of timeline are we looking at? Or would we sooner want to do this in April, May and get that ball rolling sooner? Because definitely if we want to go out to bid for a different contractor, that will throw a kink in this as well.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And, really kind of throws a kink in spring cleanup. But I'm okay with moving it out just because of the logistics of it. And as Trustee Westcott said, I would even be okay with the feasibility of one Saturday doing waste management and then looking into another company, maybe saving some money with doing the rest of the cleanup. Trustee White?
Can we get a copy of our current contract sent to us? Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Ann says yes. So with that, yeah,
can we do late spring?
That's what we were just talking about, but they don't want to go into summer because these guys are going to be out there roasting. But I just pictured them out there sunbathing, under an umbrella, directing trash traffic. Realistically, Mr. Johns, I'd like your opinion once again, and what you would like to do as far as you'll know better. Logistically, how far out should we go? Do you want to go? You already spoke to. You're really gonna be pushing it to we want to look at other companies to do it in the spring, and the summer is really a hard one because it is hot. And we'll have these guys standing out there on a Saturday roasting. Are you looking at August, end of August into September?
That's what I was kind of looking at. And I think, if we were to do that, we might term it more, instead of a spring cleanup, more of just a town cleanup, and maybe reword it a little bit, get the information out there that, hey, this is what we're looking to do and this is the time frame, just to get people prepared for it. I think that's probably the direction I would go with it. We could definitely do it in the summer, but it's definitely a lot harder, and just my experience and seeing the crew out there, if we were able to sit under tents and just kind of direct people, that would be great. But we're very active and all over the place and trying to help people and assist where we can. And so it's just, it's an exhausting day.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. All right. So I'm just going to put it up there, and I just want to show of hands as far as how many of you are in favor of postponing this to allow for Mr. Johns to do the logistics, maybe look into doing the another company as well as in tandem with this, with waste management. So
fine by me.
Just a show of hands. I can see you all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so looks like we're unanimous. So Mr. Johns, please do what you do.
Yep, I'll get to work on it, and I'll try to get something together for the board. Maybe not at the next meeting, but the meeting after that, so we can get this going as soon as possible.
And this is also working in the vouchers program as well, correct?
Yep. I'll get a whole presentation together for the board.
Okay.
As far what I'm hearing and all the feedback. I'll collect that together, and hopefully we can make that decision and move forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And the next item is the special events discussion. Mr. Stamey, is this you or?
I think this is the board.
I completely forgot about it. So refresh my memory. Was this was on the trucks, was it not? Or the whole, that was
Well,
what
it started
spurred
out the discussion on the food trucks, and then we were talking about what kind of events we may or may not have this next year.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, yeah.
So I think part of the event question is we still need to monitor what the state is doing as far as their rules for public gatherings. And I know I was on a joint managers meeting with several cities, well, the cities in Adams County, as well as Adams County, and some of those communities are not going to be holding their 4th of July events because of the public gathering concerns for transmission. So, I think we need to be cautious of that because it's, doesn't appear to be, as more people get vaccinated, we'll be better positioned to have gatherings.
Okay. All right, Trustee Westcott.
I think one of my questions from the last discussion on this was about my understanding that we could possibly use some of that money to hire an event planner to help with some of the planning. And so I think I remember hearing Mr. Stamey say something about that he could look into whether or not there was something available.
Yeah, and I don't have I don't have that confirmed yet.
Okay, that was primarily my question, was do we have an answer on that?
So as soon as I get that confirmed, whether or not they can do that or what their status is, I will send that out to the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anyone have anything they want to say on this about events or anything else? Ms. Trustee Kimberly?
Just curious, what would our liability be if we sponsor an event and we turn out because of the spread and we're, it's not hard. You have 2 positive cases and you get labeled on the state website of spreading it. So I was just curious if we sponsor this or any event and it turns out that
we're just going to blame you.
Spread. What's our risk?
Mr. Kimberly, first of all, I never answer questions about what your liability is in the public record. But secondly, I think this is an area of the law that is going to be evolving over the next several years. I don't think anybody knows the answer. It's not even just governments holding events, it's employers bringing employees back. There's just all kinds of issues around COVID and who has liability if there's transmission. So I don't think, even if I was willing to give you an answer on the record, I could give you an answer right now on the record on that. But I mean, I do think we have a public perception issue. I do know that some of our other communities that we're working with are talking about holding events this summer, but realistically thinking that those are going to more likely be a little later in the summer, and have in fact entered into some contracts with some event planners. But the contracts look a whole lot different this year, where there's all kinds of rights for the municipality to cancel the event, and then they have to pay an hourly rate to the planners for time spent putting the event together, even though it's canceled, and just a lot more potential outs for the municipality. So, it's just a big ball up in the air right now.
Okay. Anyone have anything else? Because honestly, I'm reticent to say, hey, let's just throw some stuff at the wall, let it sit there and see where it goes, because it's so up and down right now with the COVID issue. So if anyone has anything more they want to put in there, because as far as I'm concerned right now, I'm the event guy. I love doing events, but I'm really reticent right now to push forward with a lot of stuff. Trustee Westcott.
I don't know that I think I agree with you. And I think to Trustee Kimberly's question, although it's not a legal opinion, I don't want to break guidelines either. Whatever the state has issued in terms of guidelines, I think, which is what Mr. Stamey was bringing up. That being said, events don't come together on a dime, and Mayor Mahoney knows that probably better than anybody else. So I guess I don't know that I want to throw things at the wall and see if they stick, but I do think some initial planning, some sort of what could we do if in the fall, if people are vaccinated and we're able to do things, If we don't do any kind of a planning now, we won't be able to do anything for the rest of the year. And so I guess I'm not sure how hard and fast I want to be about that. I guess we just have to decide as a board, is that a priority for us to try and do things for the community? Because if we think that we want to, and it's a possibility, then we have to make that decision, now. Not tonight, but now.
Yeah. Oh, anyone have any other input, or because I'm really at a loss as far as going and actually lining out and planning, because honestly, I'd love to do the Easter thing. I'd love to do so many things, but question mark. So anyone have anything else? Any suggestions? No? Nobody's throwing anything at the wall? All right. Well, we can further this to the next meeting, and everybody think on it, and we'll have maybe a little more discussion. Let's move on. We'll move on to the staff reports. Chief McCoy.
Okay. Well, good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. I just remained quiet during that discussion because I get the floor now. So I wanted to say on the events, we usually do the springtime. We usually do the public safety day with the bike rodeo and have hot dogs cooked and given away and all those kind of things. We're not planning that. And I don't know where our Halloween event is going to go. Specifically with the police department breaking a governor's order by having more than 10 people, strangers together, I think that really looks bad, because we have to go into situations where we may have to, whether we want to or not, break up groups of people, right? We don't want to do that. But if they're breaking the governor's order and people complain about it, then we have to be involved in that. So I don't think there's any way that us as the police department can hold these events as long as those governor's orders are out there. I think the yellow which is where we're at, I think is a 10-person group gathering of strangers, I think is what it is. So that's not much of an event. So we're canceling ours for any of the type of springtime. So I don't really have anything else other than I wanted to highlight the issue that we had in Keensburg with the Hudson officer firing a weapon at a car that was driving away from us. Our officer was there. That's being investigated right now by the sheriff's department. And so part of the questions you guys had when we had some training was about resources and what happens with major crimes sometimes. In this instance, we contacted the Weld County Sheriff's Department. We actually contacted CBI, but they were dealing with another shooting that happened earlier that night involving a police officer in Adams County, so they couldn't respond. So we got Weld County to come out as an independent investigating agency, and they are still investigating that incident. Nobody was hurt, and everything turned out fine. But anytime we have an officer discharge a weapon in our jurisdiction, that's going to be a source of a high level investigation. So I don't know if you have any questions on that. If you have any questions on anything, if you have any questions on what kind of training that we get, what kind of anything, if there's ever anything that you have any questions about, let me know.
Okay. And it doesn't look like anybody has anything for you, Chief, and I don't. Just keep up the good work and have a good evening. And next we'll go to Mr. Ramey. All I saw was the giant smiling face you had painted up there, and then all of a sudden it morphed into another giant smiling face. So
I'm sorry, Mayor. I like the smile. Well, we didn't like the chief. We didn't have much excitement in January other than doing a bunch of generator work. But we did have some fun in early February. And I sent a report to Linda yesterday. I don't know if she had time to get it out to you guys and if you had time to read it.
So Wayne, we can probably screen share that, I think.
Okay.
You can put it up.
Yeah, give Crystal just a second and she'll put that up.
Would Linda give me the control of the screen, or?
Yeah, we can. I can, hang on, let me.
I mean, it's a wordy report, but basically, you know, what happened on the 6th of February, 2:20 a.m. And how we know that is to look at the SCADA, is that we had a catastrophic failure on the 24-inch line.
I don't.
Okay. All right, there you go.
Wayne, not to interrupt, but really quickly, I think because she's sharing, you can't manage it, but, oh, and then it just went away.
Public Works.
Hold on.
Phenomenal job taking care of that, getting on site, getting it wrapped up, getting taken care of. I had a lot of good feedback from residents up there. I literally only got one nasty email, and it was really nasty. But everyone else was really happy with the way you guys handled it. Public Works and all of you. I can't commend you enough. Thank you for what you've done, because people were really happy up there. But continue.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the kind.
Sorry, we're working on it.
But I mean, these kind of situations, you know, they don't occur regularly. So it's one of those things, you know, you always get the question, are we following a protocol? Are we following a set standard that we need to comply with? And my answer is a wholeheartedly, heck yeah. We've had this rodeo a few times, so we know what to do. But basically, we were fortunate in that, you know, the water plant never shut down. Even though the break occurred, we know that we went from 160 gallons a minute to 2,600 gallons a minute in the flash of an eye. And we got the call from I would assume that it was the fire department calling our 24-hour, or somebody did, where I got the call at 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. I got my crew going. I think Mark was out there on site as well. And we got the valve isolated at 340. So in reality, we only lost pressure for, you know, an hour and 20 minutes. I was in contact with the state health department as we were going through this to make sure that, you know, my decisions, as well as what I wanted to direct our crews to do, we were protecting public health. Whenever something like this happens, you're really protecting public health. So it looked like from the time we were out to the time we got it isolated, the southern part of town, as well as the west side of town, didn't lose enough pressure to where it would have created that public health issue. My crews went out, you know, after they got it isolated. It's like there's not a lot we can do for Bella Vista, Blue Lakes at that point. So we're kind of going to concentrate on Silver Peaks in the south part of town. So the crews went out, checked chlorine levels, checked pressure levels. Everything was fine. We took some obligatory samples just to make sure, you know, I mean, as much as we say, yeah, we've got this covered, you know, until I get samples and I know that I've got clear bacteriological reports, you know, I'm never going to be safe. I'm not going to be happy. So the samples were taken early Saturday morning. You know, we have a great relationship with the lab. There, you know, and I think James will tell you this, that there's not a lot of labs that are open on Saturday that'll bring in samples or allow you to bring in samples at that on the weekend. But we have a good relationship with Colorado Analytical. They allowed us to bring samples down to take them on Saturday. So once we felt like we had, you know, the southern part of town, west part, Silver Creek, you know, in good shape, our focus now is on the north side. So the way you have to handle this, and there is, I put the protocol that the state gives us that we have to work by on the back of my report, but it basically says that we need to hyperchlorinate the water where we lost pressure. And when I mean hyperchlorinate, that means stronger than a swimming pool. To where, because what happens, a pipe, even though it's, we add chlorine all the time, everybody's sample, water's safe, there's a bacterial growth that occurs on the inside of a pipe. That's just a naturally occurring phenomenon. And when you lose pressure, what occurs is that bacteria sloughs off the walls of the pipe. What keeps it against the wall is the pressure, right? So as soon as that occurs, you're sloughing off bacteria into the water. Well, the worst thing you want to do is when you restore pressure, now that water is in suspension, the bacteria. So you don't want anybody to drink that water. And so that's why the boil advisory came around. I'm in close contact with the state, telling them what they're doing, and they're going, all right, this is an acute water quality issue. We need to do a boil advisory. So while they were getting me that, I was working with McDonald Farms because I figured, okay, Saturday morning, people are getting up, maybe a little later, but what's the thing that most people do when they wake up? And that's use the restroom. And if the restroom doesn't have water to flush with, then that creates another problem. So I had McDonald Farms bring us out 2 6,000-gallon tankers so people could come by. Mark was very good about coordinating to getting it on the website, getting it on the HOA, Nextdoor, Facebook, to let people know that, hey, we've got water at the farmhouse for people to use. And I mean, people were showing up with 5-gallon containers. One lady brought up which kind of scared my guys. She showed up with an antifreeze bottle and it still had antifreeze in it. And we're like going, okay, well, what are you going to do with that? She goes, look, I just need to flush my toilet. And we're like, okay, well, that makes sense. Just don't drink that water. And then Mark and Mike, one of the guys that works for me, rounded up 300, 1-gallon containers that we could get on site so that people could get it until we got the repair done. So once we get the repair done, we have to, again, like I was telling you, we have to hyperchlorinate the system so that we disinfect the piping. We get rid of any probability that we could have somebody get sick. So we got that all flushed into the system late Saturday night. And then Saturday or Sunday morning, the guys went out and they have to start flushing out that heavy chlorinated water to return the system to normal. And then once we return it to normal, then again, we take more bacteriological samples to make sure that, we've covered our bases. And then we've got those results back on Monday that showed that, yes, we did our job right. And then I got a hold of the state and said, all right, all our results came out good. And then they rescinded the boil advisory. So, I mean, it's, we had a really good response as people were coming up to the tankers. I think, that's how, as I tell the people that work for me, I have the face for radio. I don't have the face for TV. So I don't want to be on TV. And how do you keep off being on TV is, know what do people want? Well, they want water, whether it's for cooking or drinking, or if nothing more than flushing their toilet. So the faster we get water out for them to use while we're going through this exercise, the less likely they are to be upset. So, I mean, for the amount of money that I think McDonald Farms charged the town, which was, maybe $3,000 tops, and then the $400 for the water, I think those expenses were very good and worth every penny of it. What had occurred was that water line shows on the drawings as being a 16-inch, but where it broke was a 24-inch. And there must have been a change of, when they were building it, to let's put a 24-inch out past the intersection of County Road 37 and 4, and then we'll reduce it down to 16 inches just for future development. So they had to replace, I don't know, it was a 10 or 15 foot stick of pipe. What had happened was the pipe, when it was laid, was laying on top of a storm sewer. And so just, the pressure moving back and forth, it actually, according to the contractor, blew the end of it, which we call the bell end, totally apart and snapped a 5-foot piece out and then cracked the pipe, which required a full replacement. So once they replaced it, we have to check for leaks. So we have to wait and pressurize that part of the system for, 40 minutes to an hour to make sure we have no leaks. And while we're doing that, we're actually putting in a lot of chlorine in that piece of pipe. So when we do start flushing the system out, we've got that high level of chlorine. We've done this. I think the first one that ever I had to do was back in 2010 with the town of Bennett. And the one thing I took away from that was that having fresh water brought on site as soon as possible for people to use while you're going through this is the thing that'll keep you off TV, so to speak. So I think, I want to thank Mark and his crew for going out on Sunday and delivering all the flyers to let everybody know that, the boil advisory had been rescinded. Linda and I, we're the logistics people. We're the ones that get the tankers. We're the one that converses with the health department, let them know. And then printing up the flyers, stuffing the door knockers, and then my guys getting them out and getting delivered. But it's one of those things you don't know when it's going to happen. You just know when it does happen, you need to work quickly.
Yep. That is for sure. All right. Was there anything else? You guys did as I said, can't say it enough. You and Mr. Johns and his crew, you guys did all did a phenomenal job of taking care of this in a timely manner and getting things back up and running.
So, you could see through what Linda's scrolling through right now. That's straight from the health department. And we were taught that early on years ago. The only thing that different was the door hanger template that's shown right now. That's really made for if you're going to have a known outage, or if you have a break that only affects maybe 10 or 15 homes. But when you affect 450 homes in a whole neighborhood, that's a whole different situation.
Yeah. That's
So
for sure.
I thought everybody performed and hung in there till they got it all done. And it was a long day for everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Johns can speak to, I'm sure they were glad it didn't happen, about a day later when the temperature really dropped?
Oh, trust me. Yeah, you and I and Mr. Johns as well. Trust me.
Yeah. Trustee White?
Yes. I was curious, is anybody still reporting cloudy water?
The only people that did provide us some complaints about cloudy water was in Silver Peaks. And what that was from was entrained air.
I still have cloudy water.
So, all right. Well, then the guys will be over to flush, because what happened was when you lose pressure like that, and then we reestablish pressure, the booster pump station was still trying to provide enough pressure to you guys up in Silver Peaks that it actually kind of cavitated a little bit. And what that means is it actually supersaturated the water with oxygen. And so what you're seeing in that cloudiness is oxygen. If you took a glass out and set it out on the counter, within 2 or 3 minutes, it's going to dissipate. And those that live at the highest elevation in Silver Peaks are going to experience that more than anybody else. But when I say that, there's always those pockets where we might not see, you know what I mean? So I'll let the guys know that we've got some more air in the system, and they'll be out actively flushing tomorrow to get that air out. But that's what it is.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I did read that. I wasn't too concerned with the cloudy water. I only use it to boil, to make sweet tea, honestly. But I saw it like an hour ago. It was still doing that, and I do have a hydrant right in front of my house. So I was curious if maybe it had something to do with the hydrant being right there.
No, it's just entrained. That just means that we've got a pocket that's got some air still in it. So we'll just go over and flush it, and it'll clear right up.
Well, thank you, and thank you everybody for your work. I was actually in Estes Park the day it happened, and when I got home and got on Nextdoor, I saw it all, and I was like, I would have never known. So great job.
Well, thank you. That's what our job is. We work in the background.
All right, Trustee Westcott.
Yeah, I think we need to start telling people that we have highly oxygenated water, because I think people pay for that. Like, I actually had a question for you, because that morning I went out for my little constitutional jog, walk, run thing that I do on Saturday mornings. And I noticed that all of the storm drains around all of them, they were super wet. Like there were these icy patches out on the street around them, where everything else was bone dry. And so I was wondering how, I assumed it was part of the water break.
The water break, it occurred just south of County Road 4 and County Road 37. So the brunt of the water went over to Silver Peaks is to the west of that.
Right. Sorry. Go ahead. You continue.
So the brunt of the force of that water actually went over into the ditch as well as the greenhouse. So there shouldn't have been any effect up where you're at other than temperature changes.
Well, but they did do some flushing up there, correct?
Yeah, they did. They did early Sunday morning or Saturday morning. By all means, they did some flushing, and that's the thing. When you're doing it at 5 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't dissipate as well. And it was a cold day all day, so I would probably say that was remnants of us flushing. Thank God it was like the mayor said. If it would have been a day later, we'd have had ice skating rinks.
I did have a couple of people in our neighborhood ask me, they were complaining, and this was down actually in the southern part of Silver Peaks, kind of where Trustee Antonopoulos lives. We're talking about having water in their basement as a result. Was that just imagination, or is that possible?
Nobody said anything to us, Trustee Westcott, so that shouldn't have had anything to do with any water in the basement.
Okay. All right. Anyone have anything else for Mr. Ramey? Okay. No. Again, Mr. Ramey, thank you for what you guys do. And, you did a good job, so we're keeping you around for another year.
and again, another shout out to Mr. Johns for his crew going out and delivering things and being part of there and keeping you up to date, as well as being able to let the residents know. I really appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ramey. And speaking of Mr. Johns, you're up next. And I do want to say, and I do want to personally thank you as well. I mean, I came out there and hung out with you guys for a little bit in the cold, and you guys did a phenomenal job.
Thank you, sir. What I prepared for the board, I don't have a whole lot other than I just kind of wanted to give the board information as far as the timeline, what kind of happened, how things transpired, and how we reacted to it and worked together. Everything's kind of there in the presentation. I do want to just express all of my appreciation. Ramey Environmental, our staff, we had PD, we had town admin staff going out on Monday to hand out the resend order, just everyone working as a team, as well as, Dan Laco with Dan's Custom Construction. I was with with him on the phone by 4 a.m. in the morning. Everyone was just great. Everyone worked extremely hard. No one was really even taking breaks or trying to take time off. It was all hands on deck. Unfortunately, it was just me and one other guy for Public Works, but we got through the day and made it happen. And that's all that matters, is that we took care of our residents. And I just want to thank everyone for their hard work. I kind of wanted to let the board know that, it wasn't just Public Works. Like I said, we had PD out, we had town staff helping out, and everyone was just great and assisted, and we got it taken care of. So I really appreciate that. And I just want to mention to Mr. Ramey, if he wouldn't mind, we do, Public Works had a new employee start today. I would love to take him out tomorrow and show him how to properly flush a hydrant, if that would be all right.
Go for it, Mark. The more we have that we can put out on situations like that, how that is, the better that you have your people trained, the better it is for the citizens of Lochbuie.
Yeah, and hydrant flushing is not it's not something I take lightly. So we do not force that close too fast and have something pop. So I love to get out with my new trainees and show them the proper way and the proper procedures with that stuff. And so that was my other bit of information for the board, is that we had a new trainee that started today, and he will be out and about. His name is Chuck Strong. And so he will be learning with our crew. And so we are now from 3 to 4 on our staff. And, we're continuing to hire. We have 2 more positions that we can fill. So if anyone knows of anybody, we would love to bring them aboard and have them a part of our team.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Johns? And I'm not seeing any. Again, thank you, Mr. Johns. Thank you for your report, and again, thank you for the work you guys do. It was a cluster, and you guys took care of it very well. All right, we'll move on to Mr. Stamey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just back up with history a little bit. So back when COVID hit everybody by surprise in March and started going like wildfire through the state of Colorado, the governor put out a series of orders. He was actually recommending, and his orders said that offices should close. Then it went to 10%. Then later on, it went to 25% of employees. So I'd like to just recognize our staff for addressing that condition in those situations, because we do have staff that are at risk. We did have COVID circulating among town employees. We figured out a way to work remotely to provide services to our town citizens and to keep the town businesses going. And, I think we learned a lot from that. And I think everybody stepped up to the plate and did a good job doing that. And I don't think there was any slacking off of people taking advantage of working remotely and not doing legitimate work. Everybody probably worked more hours during this period than we would have in the office as well. So a lot of towns are still working remote. City of Brighton, for example, most of their admin employees are still working remote. They still rotate some staff in, which, we do as well, but we figured out a way to keep our services and the operations of the town going by doing that. So other than that, we do have one form for you to sign in the office, Mayor. It's for a water quality report to the state. So if you could stop by Linda's office and sign that. I've signed the front page, and you need to sign the second page. Then also, when wanted to give an example, we had a pre-application meeting, just so you kind of understand what's going on with those pre-app meetings. So we had, and again, this was a remote meeting with a developer team, and we had our development review team, which was a half dozen, including both employees and our consultant team, as well as the developers team. And each of us reviewed the requirements for their annexation and subdivision development, what they need to do to process that development, and what their next steps are, and what the application process is, what the fees are. So, so that's the kind of information we started with. They had a list of questions which we answered those as well as additional questions. And so I don't have anything else unless you have questions on the report that I submitted.
Any of the trustees have any questions or comments for Steve? And I'm not seeing any. All right, then we'll go into mayor and trustee comments. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do trustee White. Nothing? Okay. Trustee Antonopoulos? Nothing?
Nothing today.
All right. Trustee Coomerly?
I want to thank Chief McCoy for his help recently. I had the unfortunate pleasure of having my identity stolen, and you really don't know how many places you have to contact and how many things you have to change until someone wants to be you and gain access to your stuff. So I just wanted to thank him and the particular officer that helped me fill out a police report, because I can't remember the last time I had to do such a thing. But unfortunately, the police department has a packet put together of things you need to do and places you need to contact, so that it just tells you the volume of these things that happen. So I share that story with you, so we all try to keep ahead of it, and certainly part of the fun is that the ball got started rolling when my employer told me that someone tried to file an unemployment claim. So just keep your stuff secure, keep your passwords and everything updated. And, it's certainly been interesting trying to find new usernames that cannot be traced back to me and something totally unique. It's kind of been an interesting thing of dealing with credit card companies, banks, my insurance, everybody. So I just share that so you all be aware of there's some nefarious characters out there that are looking for free, easy money. So be safe.
All right. Trustee Jeffrey?
I just want to thank Mark Johns and Wayne Ramey and everybody who worked on the water outage. As the one trustee member who lives in Bella Vista, we were out of water for a longer period of time than the rest of the town. But they did a really great job of communicating. They were like, Mark was right there in the middle of the afternoon when I went to the tankers to get some water, and a smile on his face and asking what I heard. And given that he'd been up since dark 30 in the morning and out in the cold all day long, like, it was really greatly appreciated. So I really genuinely thank them and all of their hard work, and I think we were very fortunate that it could be fixed as quickly as it was.
All right, thank you. Trustee Westcott?
I just want to say thank you to everybody who works for the town and contractors and all of the good work that they do for us. Thank you.
All right. Trustee Ott?
I have nothing, thank you.
And I really don't have anything other than to reiterate, I was very impressed with, how quickly Mr. Johns and Mr. Ramey were out there taking care of this, and playing around in the cold and the wet and getting the citizens taken care of. All right, with that, we're going to be going into executive session.
Mayor,
So, yes, go ahead.
before you do that, could I make a comment, please? I just wanted to give you some information. I'm sorry I didn't really know for sure until today, but I've been working on that email subscription through MuniCode, and the gal emailed me today and got the stuff done on the background. She's got to do a couple more things for the newsletter part, and then add the newsflash on one other thing. But we will be able to people to subscribe to like the newsletter, the latest news, the news flashes. And when those changes happen, depending on how, like especially like the newsletter, it'll just go out through MuniCode. But if there are news flashes, like unfortunately this wasn't set up prior to the water leak, but at least we have it going forward, that I can, if they have, so anybody has signed, but the key is they have to sign up, they have to subscribe to it. But if someone would sign up for the news flash, then I can just go in there. Once we get all the information into that page, I can just send that out to everybody who signed up for emails. So I can push those notifications out to them. So we'll start promoting that in the newsletter and on the website and on Facebook and such, but just wanted to give you an update on that we have that done.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, okay. All right, well, I guess next item is executive session. Do we have a motion?
I move to move into executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-402, parens 4, parens F, discussion of a personnel matter with the permission of the person who is the subject of such executive session.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
I'll second.
All right, take your choice, Ms. Blackstone, and roll call, please.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Westcott.
Yes.
Mayor Mahoney.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Antonopoulos.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Kimberly.
Yes.
Thank you. If you give us 1 second, we will stop the live streaming for this and the recording, and I'm going to make Maureen the co-host.